Hey, everybody, Dr. C here, Dr. Jeff Zarnick, Associate Dean of the Department of Criminal Justice and the Social Sciences here at Southern New Hampshire University Global. It's been a while. I had to do some traveling. Glad to be back here in the proverbial saddle and looking forward to interacting with you, answering any questions, or offering any kind of support that I can render. You have my email address. It's j.czarnec. Again, welcome to Dr. C's Corner. Subscribe if you'd like. Hopefully, you'll get something out of these. I got some great feedback, really received great feedback and some insight when I put out the call to people watching these learners, notably, for their strategies for success. We know online learning, with all that you have to do, with obligations that seemingly are endless, to be able to succeed in this environment is truly commendable. You are on your own oftentimes, you're isolated. There is a psychological disconnect. You're not socializing. You're not walking into the hallway to check up with friends or peers about something you may have missed in class. It's hard. Then you have to take care of everything else. And that's a lot of work. But I was able to select one submission out of several, very difficult to do. The stories, the tales, and these strategies were outstanding. So I did select one person, and I am looking to interview her, and I will send that interview out as an episode of Dr. C's Corner. Again, thanks for watching these. I know I've got some good feedback, so I'm going to keep going every week or every other week, finding things that I think you might find useful. I profess not to know everything. I love learning about really how to manage, right? How to manage your life, how to become successful. And one of those things we need to do. And that's pretty much the theme, right? About all these little episodes. So I found a really good article by a doctor. She is a metacognitive clinical psychologist and by the name of Pia Callison, and she talks about overthinking or how to stop overthinking. I saw that, it jumped right off the page for me. I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to overthink, and it really can be a serious dilemma. In her practice, she encounters many people who are trying to find answers or meaning or in attempting to make the right decision, and they spend most of their waking hours scrutinizing their minds for solutions. Uh, she says, ironically, though, in this process of trying to figure out how to proceed in life, they get frozen. They come to a standstill. Does this sound familiar to anyone? And she says, when we spend too much time analyzing our problems and dilemmas, we often end up more at a loss than we were to begin with. And every line that I read in this article really rang true for me. And if it does for you, hopefully you'll get something out of what this very brilliant doctor has to say about this. So if she says you might recognize some of these traits or whatever, if you're constantly looking out for threats, right? Anxiety. There's nothing wrong with this strategy, she says, if you feel in control, but it can backfire. Take health concerns. If, as a way to calm your worries, you start to excessively scan yourself or the people you care about for signs of illness, this threat monitoring will lead only to a heightened sense of danger and more health related worries. We know what that's like, all of us living through this last pandemic. I think there's a direct correlation to that. If you're seeking answers and reassurance, right, it's completely natural, according to the doctor, to seek reassurance from people close to you and to look for answers as to how to cope better. But if you come to a point where you depend on these strategies to calm you down and reduce your worries, you're on a slippery slope. Are you excessively planning? There's nothing wrong with moderate levels of planning. It's perfectly healthy to keep a calendar or to leave notes for yourself, and I do that all day long. Sticky notes everywhere, right? However, she says some people plan their lives down to the tiniest detail, and this can become problematic. So, in addition to being rather time consuming, excessive planning can have other negative effects, including exacerbating your worries. So, what are the strategies? She's been doing this a long time, so I really admire what she has to offer. It's a great article. And so she says, well, here's her what to do list. Get to know your trigger thoughts and let them be. She says that it is estimated that the human brain produces thousands of separate thoughts, associations, and memories every single day. Now, most of these thoughts are without significance. She says they come and they go and we don't notice them. But some thoughts, however, they attract our attention. So, in her practice in metacognitive therapy, these thoughts are referred to as, quote, trigger thoughts, end quote. If you pay them enough attention, these thoughts can trigger an explosion of bodily sensations and feelings and a myriad of associations. So, be aware of those. Recognize, she goes on to say, recognize what you can and can't control. That takes practice, right? For me, I know it does. So if you're used to boarding most trains rather uncritically, that is continuously engaging in trigger thoughts and starting to worry about and ruminate for long periods of time, then unfortunately you're well on your way to developing an unhealthy pattern. So if you repeat this pattern over and over again, the doctor says it might begin to feel as if it happens automatically. Okay. And you might understandably, well, come to believe that it's outside your control. Okay. So in trying to understand this differently, she said, instead of terms of trains, you might picture your thoughts as someone calling you on the phone. Of course, you don't decide whether the phone rings, she says, but who calls or when it rings. Unfortunately, in this case, it's not the kind of phone you can just turn off, right? But you do choose whether to answer the phone or just let it ring and turn your attention back to whatever you were doing, hopefully something productive. So she does say, while trigger thoughts are beyond your control, good to know, right? It is. You can control whether or not you engage with them. Postpone and reduce your worries and ruminations. She says many chronic overthinkers struggle to change their belief that their thoughts can be brought under control, and perhaps you're still not convinced. So, one way of challenging your belief further is to explore whether you're able to postpone worries and ruminations. The doctor recommends that her clients introduce a so called worry slash rumination time. She says it has to be a set time of the day, for instance, 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m., where you allow yourself to worry and ruminate freely. That way, when trigger thoughts come in or feelings occur during the day, for instance, you feel the need to evaluate your health or reflect upon what you think your friends think of you, try postponing these thoughts to that scheduled time. Last thing, she says avoid avoidance and train your attention. So for people struggling under the burden of overthinking, it's all too easy to develop a fear of one's own trigger thoughts. So after all, if you feel at their mercy, you might be tempted to avoid them occurring in the first place. She says, unfortunately, not only is this largely futile, it is also counterproductive. Avoidance of triggering situations will hamper your life, and moreover, to the extent that you're at all successful in avoiding situations that prompt trigger thoughts, you won't get the chance to practice letting go of those thoughts. So there's a lot more to this article that she wrote. It's wonderful. I highly recommend it. It's called How to Stop Overthinking. And it's on a website known as Psych Psyche. It's great. So once again, thanks for tuning in. This is Dr. C with yet another edition of Dr. C's Corner. Hit subscribe if you like. If you need to get a hold of me, we are here to support you on behalf of your incredible faculty, dedicated, compassionate faculty, and your amazing advising staff group or otherwise. We are a team and we are here for you. Thank you and have a great week.